Jen Woodside. I am a director in alumni relations at UNH. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar and for all of you who have tuned into the various webinars that we've been offering since March. Today, I am joined by Kimberly Clark. She is the Director of Career and Professional Success for UNH's Paul College of Business. And she's here to offer some resources, tips, and ideas for networking, something that's vital to career success, but a little challenging right now. Kim is also a Wildcat, and she has a master's degree from UNH. And she will take over the presentation now, and we will also do some question and answer at the end. So feel free to click the Q&A button that you see at the bottom of your screen. It's better to use the Q&A than the chat because sometimes we miss the chat. So please click that. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, she will answer those for you. And we are excited to have her here. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And as Jen said, if you have any questions as I go through the presentation, please ask. I'd like this to be as interactive as possible in this virtual world. So my name is Kimberly Clark. I am the Director of Career and Professional Success at the Peter T. Paul College of Business and Economics. I've been a part of first WSBE and then Paul College since about 2010. I started off as a lecturer in the economics department, teaching career development and economic and business history. And then I also have a background in human resources. I helped run a small shoe company. I've helped run some restaurants. So my family has the entrepreneurial spirit. And I've been the Director of Career and Professional Success within Paul College. It'll be 4 years this August. So my background in human resources and hiring, as well as career and professional success, is how I'm bringing you this information today. So, virtual networking. We are living in a whole new world for so many different reasons, and there's so many different layers to that world. And so what I'm hoping to do today is to provide you with some resources and some insights, and also, most importantly, answer your questions. Whatever questions you have that pop in your head, please just let us know. They're going to be monitoring those questions for us. And I'm here to support in any way. You know, we have a saying within UNH that once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat. So career and professional success support does not end after graduation. And in fact, we're working with many of our alumni now in the career service office. We have a LinkedIn page of Wildcats. I think there's like 16,000 people on that one page, and we often answer questions as people reach out to us on LinkedIn. So please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well for step one in your virtual networking. So let's take it away for the actual presentation. So, you know, networking, typically you think of going to a networking event, shaking hands, walking up to somebody saying, "Hey, how are you? My name's Kim Clark." And then just basically your little pitch. But that is so 2019. I was looking actually at pictures yesterday of our fall networking event that we do in Paul College. So if any of you are younger alumni, for 3 years now, we've had this very large networking event. It's over 200 students, typically flow through the evening, combination of students and employers. And that's what it's all about. I was looking at pictures yesterday because we're getting ready for welcoming some of our incoming freshmen, and we're putting presentations together. And it was everybody walking around and shaking hands and walking up to people and having those face-to-face conversations. We're not able to do that right now. And that is a stunner to a lot of people. Well, what does that mean? Because our world kind of is on pause. And so how is it going to be possible to continue networking and connecting with people while I can't physically go to an actual event? But while we're on pause and while we are in COVID world, networking doesn't need to stop. And in fact, in some ways, it's in some ways even better. So you might naturally ask, well, then how do I get started? So the first thing you want to do is look at your LinkedIn profile. Many recruiters start and end their day on LinkedIn. They have something called LinkedIn Recruiter, where they will go on each morning and they'll go through their LinkedIn profile. They have algorithms that are looking for keywords and phrases. And so if you are looking to network with recruiters and get seen by recruiters, you want to make sure that you have an engaging LinkedIn profile. And what I mean by engaging LinkedIn profile is that you are spending some time each day yourself. The recruiters are spending a significant amount of time there, and you should as well if you are looking for a job. or you're looking to perhaps switch careers. So by engaging on LinkedIn, you're doing things like liking articles and posts. It's as simple as that. Just by liking an article that you have read and seen on LinkedIn that you find fascinating and interesting, just liking it, they'll get a notification if their notifications are on, which I know I leave my notifications on. I posted something the other day, and every time somebody likes it, I get a notification. So once a day, because I start my day with LinkedIn as well, I will go to see who engaged and who took the time to like that article. And in some cases, I'll reach out to them. In some cases, actually, it happened yesterday. It was a former student, hadn't heard or seen from them in a long time, and I wrote them a message on LinkedIn just to check in with them. And by the same token, they liked the post, and then they wrote a message to me. So by sharing articles yourself, you can also engage. And what I mean by that is you read an article about something fascinating within the industry of where you're hoping to become a part of, and you find it fascinating, and you decide to share it on LinkedIn yourself, with perhaps a little note. The best way to do it is to grab that article and then write a little post about it. And then make sure you do some hashtags. Hashtags are actually really important on LinkedIn. The article I posted the other day was about small business. And so I did hashtag small business, hashtag. I did 3 or 4. You don't want to do too many hashtags, more than 4 or 5, it can get buried and lost. But it's really important to share and then write a proper thing and maybe tag others in it. I know when I do any kind of posting, I'll often tag Paul College in it. I just do @Peter T. Paul College, and it will come up so that students, former students, current students, employers that are connected to Paul College, it'll show up in their feed a little bit faster. LinkedIn has a lot of interesting algorithms, and it's really important to kind of become familiar with that. The other thing you can do on your LinkedIn feed is to deepen the connections you already have. As we've all pivoted to this virtual world, I'm sitting in my home office right now, and I do have the fabulous Paul College background behind me so that you're not seeing my family pictures and my shelves with books and all that. But it's interesting because working from home for many of us has allowed us more time to network and spend time together. Many people are finding that you're working in chunks of time. So I know for me personally, I'm very functional in the morning, but then midday I'll take a walk and I'll take a break to have lunch. I was joking around earlier today that my dog is getting walked about 4 times a day. But what that also means is as I'm working in different chunks of time, and many of us are telling us, many employers and many of our alumni are telling us this as well, that we're also isolated. So I walk downstairs into this office every morning, and I do walk the dog 4 times a day, but in between, it's me and the computer. I'm sitting in front of my little box and I'm doing my work. So that means I'm not having hallway conversations at work. That means I'm not seeing students as much. And I was talking to an employer yesterday from a pretty large bank in Boston, and he said the same thing, that he's feeling very isolated as well. And so as people have been reaching out to him, so we had a phone call yesterday, and he said he's had about 3 or 4 students reach out to him in the past couple of weeks. And he actually now has more time to reach back in and set up a little coffee break and a quick Zoom meeting. And in some cases, they might say a phone call because Zoom fatigue is real. And so some people are saying, actually, I would like to not look at a screen right now. Can we just set up a phone call? So, by deepening the connections you already have, when's the last time you went through your LinkedIn profile and looked at who you are already connected with? And maybe circle back to those connections and write them a message in LinkedIn on the message feature and just say, hey, I saw that, we're connected. It's been a long time since I've looked at you, or I've talked with you if you know them personally. Or if you don't really know them that personally, but you know their industry, you can write them a simple message saying, thank you so much for connecting with me on LinkedIn. I'm wondering if I could just set up a brief call. I'd just love to pick your brain about what it is you do in your industry. And just see if they're available for a quick message. And we'll talk more about that process in a moment. It's also really a great time to make new relevant connections. And I say relevant connections because you want to stay in your lane. You want to be connecting with people that are in industries that you are interested in getting into, or have possible connections that could help bridge you over to other connections. So if you're looking for a job in the area of marketing, for example, maybe make a list of marketing firms and agencies and go onto LinkedIn and start typing them in the search bar. So ABC Marketing Corporation, you type it in the search bar and then do this little trick, type UNH after it. And up will pop the people that are somehow connected to UNH that work at that firm. And then you can begin to ask for those connections. It's very important if you reach out to somebody for a new connection on LinkedIn that you always write a message. That is a very important rule. You don't want to just start randomly connecting with people without making that request. Messages are short and sweet. Just basically, I'd love to connect with you. Please consider my request to connect. I see that you attended UNH. I'm also a UNH alumni. That's all you need to say. A couple of sentences. You don't need to write much more than that. They will then receive the request and they'll decide at that point whether to connect with you. Another thing about getting started is offering your insights and how you can be helpful to others. If you see people, I saw a post a couple days ago, somebody was looking for information. And so if you are able to offer that assistance, that's also something that can be very highly valuable. You basically want to be seen as somebody that is engaging and taking time on the LinkedIn platform. When you're networking during very difficult times, I mean, we're living in very tough times right now. What's going on in the world regarding the pandemic, as well as the Black Lives Matter movement. It's really important to be sensitive to news cycles, and it's better to take the tougher days off from social media of any type. So for example, last week, the Black Lives Matter movement had respectfully requested that people have a blackout day for social media. And so that's a day to be aware of and to be respectful towards, because you do want to make sure that you're respecting that, and just be aware of those news cycles and take the tougher days off. As far as reaching out, you also want to be relevant. People naturally, typically like to help other people, right? If somebody reaches out and asks for our advice or asks for our insights, we're often very happy to provide that if we can. And then when you're reaching out, if there's something you think you can offer them, in terms of, well, I saw that you posted this article and you had some questions. Actually, I have some information for you. That could also be of relevance and helpful. It's also really important to check with your alumni networks. Obviously, UNH Alumni Association has LinkedIn pages, has the whole page for the Alumni Association, which is how you found this webinar. And you may not be aware, we also started a new platform called Wildcat Connections. We started this platform last year, and it's basically an opportunity, and I'm taking to that page right now, to explore alumni within the alumni community. You can look up people by their majors, by their location, and there's all sorts of other different filters. There's also groups that you can become a part of. There's business groups and entrepreneurship groups, socially responsible, New Hampshire employment, things like that. And we also started this other feature called Help Seekers. We're really excited about this feature, which is students, our current students, are starting to post questions. So this is where you can be a helper. You can be somebody that could help and reach out to other students. And so students are posting their questions. So for example, here's Connor. He just graduated and he's still looking for a position. And so you can actually help other people because maybe you know somebody that could help Connor. And by, again, engaging and taking part in these discussions and, kind of looking at the resources that we have, Wildcat Connections is a really wonderful new support system that we have here at UNH. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please do so.
Kim, I do have a quick question already.
Sure, absolutely.
The question says, you mentioned relevant connections. Would there ever be a reason to not accept someone's LinkedIn request? I feel like I have been receiving more random requests from people I don't know and who aren't in my industry.
Absolutely. That's a really good question. Many of us are getting these requests now because people are increasing their networking times. in this virtual setting. And so, I probably turn down 2 or 3 LinkedIn requests a day. So when you're receiving a LinkedIn request, do look at where it's coming from. Are you connected to anyone else? Or is it just a random person that you have no connection with? You have no idea who that person is, and you can't see that they're connected to anyone else. You only want to ask for and receive connections that are relevant to you. And so it is okay to decline requests. I do encourage you to dig deeper sometimes and make sure it's not a recruiter. Now, typically recruiters will write a message. If you're getting these random requests that have no message attached to them and you see nobody is connected to this person at all, you might want to just decline it. And then there's a button that says, I do not know this person. You could click on that too and report to LinkedIn, because LinkedIn does try to keep track of people that are just kind of spamming LinkedIn, if you will, that are just randomly going into LinkedIn and just trying to connect with as many people as possible to perhaps then try to sell them a product. I have a standing policy. If it's anybody from UNH, I always say yes, whether it's a Paul student or anybody else from the university, because when I taught economic and business history, I had liberal arts students, I had sub-students in my class. So many times as a former student that is connected to someone else, and I can find that, kind of 2-3 degrees of separation. So it is more than okay to decline a request if you do not know. I actually did accept a request from somebody that I did have a 1 degree of separation, and they instantly started messaging me trying to sell me a multi-level marketing product. So then I then unfollowed them, because much like Facebook, you can unfollow people so that you do not see them in your newsfeed any longer. And then you can also report them and block them, because LinkedIn really does discourage people from selling their products. And so just be aware of that as well, but absolutely. So hopefully I answered that question. And if not, shoot it back in the question. So on to the next slide. So, some people say, how do I get started? So now I've messaged somebody on LinkedIn, I've connected with them on Wildcat Connections, I found them in a group, and now we're about to have this virtual coffee chat. How do I get this going? It's a little nerve-wracking to meet with somebody that you've never met before, and hard enough to do so when you're actually going to a coffee shop and meeting people. In some ways, for some people, doing this virtually, but either by phone call by the way, one thing I forgot to mention is find out which portal works for them. I don't know about all of you, but I'm using everything from Skype, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom. Those are kind of my 3 portals that I'm using right now. So literally when I'm setting up a meeting with someone, I ask them, which portal would you like? And so make sure that if you're reaching out to someone to set up a meeting, that you can adapt to them. If you don't have Microsoft Teams or Zoom, or pretty much everybody can get Skype pretty easily, then you might just want to set up a phone call to discuss. And then, basically you want to go in with an agenda. You want to have some talking points, an idea. You might want to just set some context and let the person know, I would just love to set some, have some goals, act excited. You want to be enthusiastic when you're talking to the person. You're taking their time, and you want to have a benefit from the conversation, but also make sure that they see some benefit from talking to you as well. And then show them some empathy. Just be aware of their time, honor their time. If you've said, oh, can I just chat with you for a half hour? Stay to that half hour. That's really important, to be respectful of their time. I've had a few employers call back to me who, students had reached out to them and they said, well, I couldn't get them off the phone. And so we might want to coach them in next time being respectful of that time frame. So if somebody has given you their time, having some goals going into what you want to have in that conversation, adding some, let them know what your challenges are. But remember that you want to really be respectful of their time, and be empathetic towards that. And then there's some not to do's. So, as far as overall virtual networking, I will tell you that Twitter is not the greatest for networking. Twitter has become a really highly politicized social media tool. And so reaching out to people on Twitter is not as effective. I do occasionally have alumni and companies reach out to me on Twitter through the message feature. So I'm not saying don't use it at all. However, it's just be aware that really at this moment in time that we're living in, LinkedIn is the #1 tool. Be careful on LinkedIn or even your Twitter feed and other social medias if you're in the job search about political posts. You know, it's interesting. My family owns a small business, and so we have this strict, we want to be careful about what we post on social media, so that people don't walk in your small business and say, I can't believe you said that. When you're searching for a job, you want to be careful as well. And I'm not saying you don't support what is going on in the world, but you just want to be careful. If you do start engaging with somebody and it becomes a little heated, perhaps, you just might want to be careful. The other thing that you should never do when you're reaching out to people for networking and networking support is to come right out and say, hey, are you hiring? I need a job. I've lost my job. I'm pivoting for my job. I'm looking for a job. You want to basically, in a casual conversation with somebody, picking their brain, having that conversation. If it naturally leads to that, they might say at the end of the conversation, hey, is there anything else I can help you with? You might then want to say, well, I really appreciate you taking the time. You know, I am on the job hunt right now. So if you hear of anything, I would appreciate you letting me know, but you do not want to come straight out and ask for a job. It's uncomfortable to be asked that question after somebody has reached out to you in what seems to be more social or informational session. And then I have a kind of a rule of thumb for how many times you reach out to somebody. So I always say twice as nice, thrice as on thin ice. And the reason for that is, if you reach out to somebody on LinkedIn or you get their email address and you reach out to them and they don't answer you the first time, first of all, understand this, it's not personal. People are busy. And as we are working in this new reality, there are some people that are not going on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is typically heavily used by younger alumni, recruiters, and those on the job search or those in the business of selling or recruiting. So many people over the age of 45 or so did not use LinkedIn to get their jobs and typically don't go on very often to engage in looking. We have many alumni that are super helpful and really amazing supports. And I'll have students come to the office and say, well, I wrote to them and they're not getting back to me. And so I'll look up who the person is, and then I'll say, oh yeah, they haven't been on LinkedIn. I'll look at their posts, I'll look at their engagement, and I can see that they haven't been on LinkedIn in 6 months. You know, LinkedIn is a feature that is super helpful for many of us that are in the process of networking. But if you're not trying to network and you're just kind of satisfied in your position, then you're not necessarily checking that platform on a regular basis. And so it is not personal to you if they're not responding. And so I would always suggest reaching out 2 times. So you message them once with the original message. I see that you work at ABC Company. Wondering if you might be able to grab 30 minutes with me so I could find out about your career path. Love to hear about, you know, how you have landed where you are now. If they don't answer that, then I always give it 48 to 72 hours. If you write on a Friday, the other thing is don't write Fridays afternoon, especially in the summer. There are certain times that social media is stronger. So Monday mornings are actually best. Monday mornings, it's been proven and shown by marketing analysts that Monday mornings is the best time to post on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram because people are back in the office and they're catching up and paying attention. The worst time is afternoon on a Friday, no matter if it's a beautiful summer day or a cold, gloomy day in December. And that is because people are wrapping up their week and getting ready for the next week. So they're not as likely to respond. And the worst time also is the weekend. So you want to make sure that you're respectful of people's work space and work time. And the weekends might be when you have time to send in the messages because perhaps you are working during the week and busy. But one of the suggestions I make to people is create a Word document with the statements that you want to say, the people that you want to say them to, and then cut, paste on Monday morning. And so you have 5 people that you want to message on LinkedIn and try to connect with. Monday morning, you've got it all good to go. Log on to LinkedIn, log into the messages, and then just fire those messages off. Because the other thing is you do want to be respectful of people's work hours and work time. I had an employer that was getting messaged by a student and they hadn't answered after 48 hours. So then they wrote a second note, which I'll get to in a second. And then that person didn't answer. And I said, well, when did you send these notes? And it turned out they started sending the notes on Friday at 4 p.m. And they had sent the second note on Sunday afternoon. And so I said to the student, well, that's the weekend. So you can't really expect that they're going to get back to you on the weekend. So wait a couple more days and you should be fine. And sure enough, by that Tuesday, the person had gotten back to them. I say that more than reaching out more than twice is a little bit pushy and thin line. So if they don't answer the first time, so if you sent it on a Friday morning, do not expect a response until probably Tuesday. By Tuesday, you can then write them another note. Just want to check to make sure you received my earlier message. That's all you need to say. Just a quick short note. And then give it another 48 hours. If they do not reply at that point, it either means they're not interested in connecting, they don't go on LinkedIn on a regular basis. So then you could check to see if there's another way to find out how to get a hold of them. You can go to the company website. A lot of big corporations do not share people's public information, but some of the smaller businesses might. And also Wildcat Connections. You can go back to that Wildcat Connections site that I showed you earlier to see if perhaps they might be able to, they might be on that platform as well, and you can message them there. But after the second time, if they're not responding, you really just want to back off and move on to another connection, because it just could be that they're not interested. And if you go more than 3 times, it can be seen as pushy. So you just want to be careful about that. My next 2 slides are a bunch of hyperlink articles, and I'm looking at the time right now. We're about a half hour into this, and I really want to make sure I get through a lot of questions that you might have. But I do also want to show you a couple of these hyperlinks. So this presentation is going to be available to you after. And these articles, I've got 2 slides full of these helpful articles. And I'm going to click on this one now. That takes you. Lindsay Pollock is a multi-generation workplace expert. She was recently on MSNBC as well as Fox News. And so a lot of what I've shared with you is what Lindsay does. Lindsay is an expert in the field of career and professional success. She's written many books. She has a podcast that is super interesting to follow. And she starts off this particular article that I'm sharing about how to write a great LinkedIn headline, make sure that you're telling a story, refreshing your network. But what I want to scroll down to are basically a little bit about virtual job hunting and networking. So, it's interesting. Companies are still hiring. We hear from recruiters all the time that they are still hiring. I was talking to a bank yesterday that said that they're actually hiring as they did in the past. Many companies in March, when the world kind of shut down, had to pivot. They had to figure out how to set up home workspaces. They had to reconfigure everything. Some companies are waiting till Q2 results come out, which for some companies is July 1. Other companies are waiting for their Q3 results to come out. So what we're hearing overall is that many companies are starting to post jobs and starting to realize what their hiring numbers can be. And this is not the same as the crash of 2008. 2008 was an economic downturn due to the weak banking industry. This hopefully, while some economists are saying might be a longer recovery, if we get the vaccine and people are able to get back to the workplace safely, many companies are being optimistic and saying that they will be hiring. It is really important not to wait for ideal circumstances, because I don't think we're going to have ideal circumstances for a long time. It's really important to start reaching out now to your networks. I see a couple of questions, so I'm going to pause for a second so I can answer those.
Great. So the first question is to go back to your information on relevant connections on LinkedIn.
Sure.
If you have changed industries professionally, is there any value to keep connections that are in a completely different field than what you are currently in?
Sure. I always say keep all your connections because you just never know. It's interesting. I had an employer the other day who was secretly telling me that they're leaving their company. And they wanted to know if they could reach out to somebody that they saw in my network, because they had actually stepped away from that industry. And they realized they made a mistake, which is they didn't keep connections in their previous industry. They were pivoting. So she was in, I don't want to give away who she is. So she's currently in this one industry and she's completely going to a different industry. And she made the mistake of letting go of those connections. You don't ever want to let go of your connections because you just never know. If you're going to be changing complete different industries, letting go of those old connections could be a mistake in 5 years, 3 years, 2 years. That you decide to pivot back or move back to that industry. So my suggestion is never let go of former connections. The beauty of LinkedIn is you just keep building. The only people you're ever going to decline or lose touch with are the people that maybe you don't want to see on their feed anymore because they've become kind of a nuisance in your feed for whatever reason. But it is super, and it doesn't mean you're always having to engage with them either. It's okay to reach out to somebody that you haven't had a contact with in years. People love hearing from people, especially these days. And so I do strongly suggest that you keep any and all connections across the variety of industries. Okay, and I saw there was another question too.
Yes, there is. Do you have any tips on reducing the awkward pauses when networking with someone on Zoom? I want to make sure I am asking the right questions, but not dominating the conversation.
Sure. The thing about Zoom is it's hard to pick up on body language, right? I mean, when you're sitting across from someone, you can pick up on their nuances. You can pick up on if they're giving you the eye contact, if they've kind of lost interest in what you're talking about. The computer makes it a little bit tougher. And so it's really important to recognize and honor the pauses sometimes. So you're having a conversation with someone, and that's why I was saying earlier, have an agenda. Go in with 20 questions and 20 topics that you want to talk about. Maybe you only get to 2 of them. That's okay. But by going in prepared, you could potentially end those awkward pauses. But also be aware of them, that perhaps look at the clock. Are you at that time that you had said you would honor? So if they said, oh, I'll talk to you from 12 to 12:30, and now it is 12:29, it could be that they're not responding to you as much or giving kind of shorter answers because they're looking at the clock and wanting to get off at that time. But I think the more prepared you are with questions, going in, the less you'll have those awkward pauses. And by the way, the awkward pauses are okay. The one thing I've noticed in talking to our employers, especially, I actually was teaching one of our employers how to use Zoom a few weeks ago, and because they typically use Skype. And there were some awkward moments there of they weren't trying to figure things out, and we just laughed about it. It's okay to be casual in that nature of just saying, thank you so much for, speaking to me. I know this is not the way, it's not ideal. It's okay to address it and own it as well. So hopefully I answered that question. I see a couple more as well.
Yes. The next question is, in addition to Wildcat Connections, are there other resources available through UNH to help me network and for career help for older alumni in addition to new grads?
Sure. So the whole UNH Alumni Center has a ton of resources, these webinars being some of them, and they've been doing a lot of the webinars. So by going to the UNH Alumni page, I feel like that would be step one. The LinkedIn UNH alumni pages also have, like I said, 16,000 members. So that would be another resource. And then the Career and Professional Success Office is able to help our alumni up to any year. We help with resumes, we help with networking support, offering insights and ideas. The only hiccup is Handshake only posts jobs up. Handshake is now our job board. It was Wildcat Careers a few years ago. But they only post for up to 5 years of experience. So you will not find postings if you are out of over 5 years. But typically what we tell our alumni that reached into us, I was working with somebody last year that had graduated when I was at UNH in the late 80s, and we were reminiscing about downtown Durham in the late 80s and how much fun it was. And they said, well, where am I going to turn to? And so we talked about Indeed.com. We talked about LinkedIn. More and more companies are using LinkedIn to post their jobs. And I know I sound like a LinkedIn salesperson during this seminar, but it really is a place. If you type in the name Wayfair, and then you type in UNH after it, you're going to see all the UNH alumni that work at Wayfair. And that would be the case for any company. And that is where you can then reach out to the person that you see is connected to that company and message them and ask that question. Hey, I see you're working at Wayfair. I'm very interested in that company besides the fact that I love some of their furniture. Wondering if I could set up a quick 30-minute chat with you to discuss how you were able to make your way there. And so those are some of the resources that are out there. I think that, you know, as you poke around Wildcat Connections, you'll see a lot of alumni have posted that when you set up an account on Wildcat Connections, the thing that happens with that is you basically you share what it is you're willing to answer questions about. So as the alumni community, and I'm going back to that page to kind of show you, I'm going to see if I can pick on somebody. Basically what happens is they, I'm gonna see. All right, I'm gonna pick on Tyler. He actually works for UNH Career and Professional Success, but what they do here is it says what they are able to provide. So here it says help topics. And everybody who sets up a profile on Wildcat Connections is asked to answer, what are you willing and able to help with? And so as you click on their profile, and you'll see, ask me anything, job shadowing, resume critique, adulting. So those are some of the options that we're given when we set up our platform. And so by going to that, you'll see exactly what they're saying they can help you with. And then what happens from there is you can then message Tyler on the little button there, and you can let him know, hey, I would love to, you know, connect with you. Would you be willing? You know, or I'm going to click on Courtney here. I have no idea who Courtney is. So she, you know, is basically sharing her resume here. Again, this looks and feels a lot like LinkedIn itself as well. She got her master's in writing in 2018, went to Bryant as an undergraduate, and here's what she's saying she'll help with as well. So by going onto the people's profiles in Wildcat Connections, so the difference between Wildcat Connections and LinkedIn, Wildcat Connections, we don't have, it's basically all UNH alumni that have opted to be on the platform and offer support for each other. And so that is the difference. Whereas LinkedIn, the world is out there and we have a lot of UNH alumni out there, but they might not be engaging on it on a regular basis. As I said earlier, if they're not looking for a job, they might not be going on it. Or they might just not be interested in engaging and connecting. Whereas Wildcat Connections, again, those people have decided purposely to be there. So hopefully I answered that question as well. And if not, shoot another one. Do we have any other questions at this point?
We do.
Okay.
The next question is, how far back would you go for connections? I have some great connections in grad school, but I feel like I haven't talked to them for a while. So would you go back further or keep it to more recent context?
I would go back as far as it takes. I'll tell you, I had a student who had graduated in 2011. That was the year I actually got to UNH starting to teach, and had reached back to me. And I did not remember them. Sorry, I sometimes don't always remember everybody. But then I went on LinkedIn, saw their picture. I was like, oh, okay, look vaguely familiar. And they asked the same question. And they had graduated in 2011, had a few people that they had taken, they were kind of going through LinkedIn and they saw somebody that they had taken a freshman English class with. So that meant 11, 10, 9, 8, like 2007. Literally just recognized them for their freshman English class because they did one thing together. Had never really talked to the person, decided to reach out anyway, wrote a message on LinkedIn and said, you're not going to remember me. We were in freshman English together back in 2007. I see that you're working at this company that I'm super interested in. Do you mind if I pick your brain for a moment? They ended up connecting on LinkedIn, and that person was able to help them set up an informational interview with somebody else in the company. So the rule of thumb is go back to as far as it takes. And, you know, you can even acknowledge if it's like, I'm embarrassed I didn't keep in touch with these people. That's the world we live in, right? It happens. We have the best of intentions. So owning that, just writing to them and saying, you know, hey, we took classes together, or we were in a sorority together, or, you know, we used to go to, you know, Scorps and Libby's together, or Nick's, depending on how far back you are. And I feel horrible that I haven't kept in touch, but I'm wondering, I would love to connect again. You know, could we connect for 30 minutes over Zoom, Skype, Microsoft Teams, whatever portal works for you? Okay. Do we have any other questions?
We do have two here. When networking, how do I explain a lapse in job experience because laid off due to COVID-19?
Sure. So actually, we're telling people put it right on the resume. So we had quite a few students and interns, student interns and student recent grads that their jobs were pulled due to COVID-19. And so there was a lot of research and conversation about what to do about this. And so part of it was having that conversation of, and we talked to the National Association of Colleges and Employers, came up with a set of standards. And basically the premise is this: you earned that job, you earned that internship, you went through their process, you were vetted by the company. And so as a result, it's okay to put it on the resume. And you can say on the resume, laid off, furloughed due to COVID-19, and employers will understand that. If you have a gap due to, I actually stayed at home for 4 years when my kids were younger. And so I had a gap on my resume. And I'll never forget the first job interview I had after that time period. It was actually at UNH, because we had a family business that I'd worked with for a number of years, but I did have this gap before the family business. And so I was asked, why the gap? And I said, well, I stayed home for 4 years. I've actually seen some resumes where people put stayed home. They'll put on the resume, and they'll say stayed home for 4 years to raise children. People are very respectful of that and will understand that. And being laid off due to COVID or any other reason, it's very understandable that you might have that gap as well. So,
all right. We have one more question here. What do you recommend for professional clothing when networking virtually? Should you wear a suit jacket or be more casual?
So I always tell people you can't go wrong with dressing nicely, and dressing up. I think, from the waist up, right? And that's the benefit of the virtual world. I'm right now wearing jeans and my socks and you can't see it. But, I think that to show respect to the person that's taking the time to talk with you, I think a suit coat and a button down or a nice blouse, no tie, you don't need a tie. But I always say you cannot err on the side of dressing above and dressing up on that person for that person, is always super helpful as well. Okay. Any other questions?
That is the final question. Excellent. I don't know if you have anything else or you want us to have people put any final questions in there before we log off.
Well, we can put final questions. While I'm doing that, I'll go back to sharing my screen again, because I can go back to this Lindsay Pollock article that I was starting to show, because it's just so valuable. So I'll spend a couple more minutes on that since we have time. So the bonus tips are basically, and this is where it talks here is, these are some tips for virtual informational interviews virtually. Want to confirm 24 hours in advance. So when you've set up a phone call, Skype, Zoom, whatever portal it is, please make sure you send them a quick note 24 hours ahead and make sure that you're respecting their time. You also want to be on time. If you've said, hey, let's set up a call for noon, you want to make sure you're there at 5 of. You want to make sure you're honoring that person's time. And then also do your research. If you've reached out to somebody, go on their LinkedIn profile and look up what they do, what their job is. Because you don't want to say, so what is it you do? What does your company do? Do your homework. Pretend it's almost like a job interview in a way. And so you want to make sure. And then understand that they're probably not going to do homework on you. And so they're not going to know much about you, but you can say to them, is there anything that you'd like to know about my background? Or at the end, is there anything I didn't ask that I should? And that's a good way to answer. And then also, this is the other article that talks about preparing questions, show you're listening, be really present with that person. In order to do this webcast today, I had my daughter take the dog for a walk. I, made sure I had a background. I'm very focused. It's hard to do sometimes when we're sitting at home on our computers to stay focused. You might have kids in the background. I'm lucky I have college-age girls, and usually they're both sleeping at noon. But you want to make sure that when you're taking that person's time, that you are with them, you are present, put the phone away, and really focus on. And then this is the most important thing I did want to leave you with, is thanking them. Within 24 hours, send a very brief thank you note, thanking them for their time. Thank you so much, Susan, for taking the time to speak with me. I really appreciate the insights you provided. If there's anything else, that I didn't answer or anything I can help you with, please let me know. Short and sweet, don't write this whole thing. And unless they asked you for their resume, do not send it at that time. And I saw another question come in.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions. One is actually just right about what you just said. Is an email an okay thank you note? People seem worried about germs and things on surfaces right now, so worried about sending a thank you note in the mail.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had somebody ask me that a couple weeks ago. We have these thank you cards with the Paul College, this picture that's behind me on it, and we always hand them out in the office so people can handwrite cards. An email is more than sufficient today. And that is respectful. It's, people love the handwritten note, but I know some people are kind of sanitizing their mail or not touching it for 3 days or something. And so to be respectful of that at this time, a message on LinkedIn, if that's how you connected in the first place, or an email thank you is very sufficient. As long as you remember to thank them, that's the very important thing.
Great. You have one more question here. Is it appropriate to connect with your boss on LinkedIn? How far or high up in an organization should one connect on LinkedIn?
Sure. It's absolutely appropriate to connect with your boss on LinkedIn. Not on Facebook and definitely not on Twitter, but it definitely, unless they've reached out to you, which a lot, some bosses might do that. But absolutely to connect with everybody that you work with in any workspace on LinkedIn, that's very appropriate. And then again, that's where the being respectful of news cycles and what you're posting is super important, right? Because as you're engaging on the virtual platforms of such as LinkedIn, know that everybody's reading what you're posting. And so you do want to be respectful of what you're saying, and know that, if you work for an organization and you have in your title that you work for that organization, there are some firms and companies that will say that you're representing them every time you post on LinkedIn. And especially if they pay for your LinkedIn profile, if they're paying for your LinkedIn premium, officially it belongs to them. And so you do want to be respectful of that, but absolutely, if they reach out to you for a connection, you can connect with them. If you want to reach out to them for connection, you might want to chat with them first and say, are you okay if I reach out to you on LinkedIn if you have that relationship? If it's 2 people up, 2 people removed, I think that's okay too, depending on the culture and the vibe of the company. But I would think in today's world, it's okay to do that for sure. Great.
I'm glad you're saying that because I'm pretty sure I'm connected to President Dean on LinkedIn. So all of a sudden I thought, oh gosh.
Actually, as I was answering, I was trying to remember if I actually am. I know I am on Instagram and Twitter, but I'm not sure if I ever did on LinkedIn. And
I know, I think I maybe am. I'll have to check. That was actually our last question. So if you have any final words, wait a minute. I spoke too soon. It says in LinkedIn, are the messages sent between you and another person secure and not for general viewing?
Yes, they're private messages that only you and the person that you're writing to and from sees, unless you've included somebody else in the conversation.
Okay.
But just know that anything they could cut and paste it and send to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like anything you post on Facebook, right? They could cut and paste and send to somebody else. So, but it is a private conversation. It's kind of, if you think about it as Facebook Messenger too, it's just between you and that person.
Okay. All right, that looks like our last question. And as we said, we will definitely send out those resources afterwards in a follow-up email. And we'll also send out our webinar library to give you some information if you want to rewatch this or send it to somebody. And then we have some additional career-related webinars that you might want to tune into online. They will be there in the library. But thank you so much for presenting today and giving all this great, valuable advice. And if anybody has any questions afterwards, even feel free to shoot us an email after we send you the follow-up email, and we will get it over to Kimberly and get you the right answers. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. And most importantly, connect with me on LinkedIn. I expect to see a lot of requests when I get off this webinar.
Great. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time.